Hi, I'm Olivia.
And I'm Amy.
And this is the Girls in Marketing podcast. Every week, we release a new episode that you won't want to miss. Our guests are industry experts with amazing experiences, so you'll always come away with new nuggets of wisdom. From educational and inspiring episodes covering the latest in digital marketing to casual and fun chats with the Girls in Marketing team, unpacking marketing myths and trends, we've got it all.
Here at Girls in Marketing, we're all about empowering and supporting women to be the best marketers they can be through our online learning platform and community. Check out our resources and membership to get involved, as we'd love to welcome you to our inner circle.
Right, let's dive into an episode together. Hello and welcome back to the Girls in Marketing podcast. Today we're bringing you another snack episode and we're talking about something that's a little bit different. We're going to speak about social media platforms that disappeared, because social media is something that changes all the time. And it's something that, you know, these social media platforms, they pop up, they disappear, all of these different things. And I'm sure people will be totally aware of the things that used to exist versus what doesn't exist. We obviously now have like the standards. We have Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Snapchat, I would say, TikTok. Does it say TikTok?
No.
TikTok.
Get to know.
And there's kind of like, there's obviously like Reddit, and then we kind of get onto all of those different things. There's the ones that do really well, the social media platforms that people use all the time. Obviously different age demographics for those platforms, but there are some that disappeared, which we thought would make a good episode for everyone.
Yeah, just kind of having a bit of a chat about where they went and why.
Yeah. So the first one, Vine. I feel like that is a throwback in and of itself.
Vine is a throwback.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I was just before the Vine kind of age. I have a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of like compilations on YouTube, but apart from that, I wasn't actually on it.
Yeah.
I think I was probably prime like Vine age. Maybe you
Vine.
were a bit too young and maybe you were a bit too old for Vine.
Yeah,
But I feel
maybe.
like I was. But I actually never had it like as a platform. I just used to see like when people posted about it, when it was like repurposing back in the day, repurposing content on like Facebook and all other things like that.
Yeah.
But what I thought was interesting about Vine was the fact that it was almost kind of like what TikTok is now. But why did it disappear? Like what? I don't know what it was about the platform in itself that made it disappear.
Yeah, I wasn't a big Vine user. Like you said, anything I knew from Vine, any of like the little memes and funny sounds that like we kind of all know today, I know them through other things. Like I know them maybe through like clips on YouTube or whatever. And I think that it was one of those things where I don't think the platform really kept up with the times enough. Right. I don't think. So it launched in 2013, I think. And I don't think that it kept up with, it didn't want to diversify and kind of monetize anything.
Yeah.
So in terms of when people were getting really popular on Vine and like amassing, you know, a lot of followers and like doing really well, I don't think there was a great deal that they could necessarily do with that following on Vine.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of creators moved to platforms like YouTube, or probably would have moved to like kind of the likes of TikTok if that, you know, was around then, because they could kind of monetize their content and their platform. Like that bigger audience for them on the likes of YouTube would equate to being able to monetize things, getting brand deals, that sort of stuff. But I don't think that Vine really saw that as a priority for themselves. And I think that probably was a part of their demise. Like they didn't really want to do that. And people, you know, at the end of the day, people use social media platforms to enjoy content and stuff. But it comes back to that thing of, if people do well enough on them, they want to be able to kind of, you know, make something out of it and get some success from it. And if those people who are, you know, the most popular on there are moving elsewhere, it's going to flop, really, isn't
Or
it?
if you've got a video on Vine that's done really well, because I know this has happened to so many creators, did a video that did really well on Vine, they put it on YouTube and they'd make like, you know, 10 grand off YouTube. Obviously, you're not going to be creating Vines where you can't make any money from it.
Yeah.
Like even repurposing that content, because you can, you know, get money from YouTube directly from like monetization and stuff. I do think that was a big thing, because that is for a lot of people, especially creators, a lot of the time it can be their full-time job. Obviously at the time, like 2013, that was when also being a creator, being an influencer was starting to take off.
Yeah.
Like that was kind of like
YouTubers
that
were on the rise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I remember that was like prime for me. It was that kind of like Zoella, Alfie Days era where everyone started to get like hit that like million kind of subscribers. Vine was around, but I think the creators that kind of stuck to YouTube were fine because they were kind of like making money, whereas the ones that were on Vine were kind of moving, as you said, to other platforms because there's no point in being on a platform you can't make money from.
So interesting, and I think like Vine is the perfect case study of social media platforms aren't invincible. Like they need to keep up with the times, they need to keep up with the creators and listen to not only what customers, users of the app need, but what creators of the app need, because at the end of the day, the customers and the creators are what keep it going, aren't they? So it is interesting because it might have been like a whole different story if, like say, Amy, they would have monetized the platform in that like Zoella, Alfie Days kind of era. But
And I think that the content was really short form, wasn't it? It was like 6-second videos or something
So
like
short,
that. I don't know whether they would have moved towards changing the length of the content and stuff, but I think you've got to stay on top of what consumers want and what creators are going to benefit from. And I just don't think that they were. I think it came, you know, kind of from nowhere. It blew up. It did really well, and I just don't know that they necessarily had the plan for how it was going to be a long-term thing. And unfortunately, it just didn't stick around. It sticks around in like popular culture, and like it's quite a throwback.
If you
isn't it?
reference
Like
a
people
little
reference
Vine
it a
meme,
lot, but I
Yeah.
don't think there's any signs of it coming back.
What makes me laugh though is you've got platforms like that are like, we're not doing anything, we're staying as we are. Obviously that wasn't a positive for them. But then you've got the likes of Instagram. I know everyone's laughing about it at the moment. It's like changes, doing all these different things. So it's like the total opposite.
Yeah.
Obviously it's great for Instagram to be kind of keeping up with the times, but I don't think they know where they're
Instagram
going or what they're
I
doing.
think we'll change. Actually, we won't change. Do you think we should change? I think we should do an update.
Whereas Vine
Go
are just
back.
like, we're not doing anything, and then it's like, your platform.
We're not doing
Yeah.
anything and deal with it. That's what
I
they were
think
like.
it's finding a middle ground, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, you know, changing things as and when they're needed, and it's actually based on what consumers want. But, you know, a lot of what we've seen around Instagram, at least recently, although I think Adam Mosseri has come out and said like they're kind of going back on a few changes that they've made because they've realised some of them weren't necessarily what users wanted.
User
and
feedback.
Yeah, they've taken on feedback and stuff. So, you know, we love that from Instagram.
Yeah.
Hopefully that 2023 is going to be their year because 2022 was not it.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's hope.
Let's hope.
What's our next platform?
Next platform, Tumblr.
Okay.
Again, I feel like this is a throwback and a half because it was the OG like blogging site for people. But I also feel like there were so many people that have like secret Tumblrs.
Yes.
Like where it was, you know, they didn't tell anyone, like a bit like secretive. I feel like it is a massive platform.
Definitely.
That so many
I feel
people
like
loved.
Tumblr, so it was around when I was kind of like in sixth form kind of age. I think it was around 2010 that it came out. And
I was 8.
don't say that. So it was kind of, for me, it was so different to the likes of other platforms that I think we're going to come on to, like MySpace, for example, where that was all friends. It was just friends. It was people you knew. Tumblr was very much a space to like have that anonymity if you wanted it. You could kind of be on Tumblr under kind of like a pseudonym. You could post, you know, blog about stuff, post different things, interact with people that like maybe you didn't know, but, you know, had shared interests and stuff. I mean, I had a Tumblr. I wasn't particularly active in like myself using it, but I liked to use it and like reblog stuff and like look for cool Tumblr edgy photos and
Like
all.
Tumblr boys.
Yeah, just like,
like that kind of era.
Yeah,
It's like Tumblr
that, like,
boys.
aesthetic.
I just remember One Direction era. It was like all about One Direction Tumblr at one point.
Yeah, and I feel like again there were a lot of draws and it was massive. Tumblr was really, really, really big. And again, I think part of the issue, I obviously can't be sure, but I feel like part of the issue was that they just didn't really know what direction they wanted to take it in.
Yeah.
I think that they were acquired by Yahoo.
Okay.
And then again, I don't think even with that acquisition, they really had like a clear vision for what they wanted the platform to be.
Yeah.
They made quite a few changes to the platform. So they took away some features that like temporarily took away features that users liked, like being able to comment on people's posts and stuff and like engage with them there, and introduced like DMs and stuff. And then it was like, was that really what people wanted? So then they were kind of going back on things. And I think just ultimately, you know, like with a lot of these, other platforms just came in and did it better.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of like that's a big learning point and something that we can take away probably from most of the platforms that we're going to talk about. It's that it's a combination of that platform's own failings, but also other platforms like, you know, progress and the good
Getting
things
ahead.
that they did.
Yeah.
So it's a combination of the two, isn't it? And it's like, you know, if Tumblr had no competitors, they probably could have got away with having a bit of a lack of a vision and just kind of fluffing through things a bit and just being like, oh yeah, we'll do a bit of this, we'll do a bit of that. But in that same time, you know, kind of like early 2010s, there's other platforms really coming through and like doing stuff. And I just don't think that they're ready for that competition. So I think it's probably a little bit of that.
And that happens a lot, I think, with companies and like social medias and stuff that get acquired. Because it's like, obviously they were acquired by Yahoo and it was all of a sudden like, they weren't, obviously before then, potentially the creators or whoever was kind of looking after Tumblr had that vision, but it was all of a sudden that no vision that meant that they didn't listen to users. They weren't creating features that they wanted to create. And I don't want to like put a bad thing out there, but I feel like that might happen with Twitter, because at the moment with everything that's going on with Twitter, I feel like user feedback isn't getting listened to. People, that whole like verification stuff that happens
it's
on
so
Twitter.
turbulent at the moment, and it's like one day someone says something, this is happening with Twitter, and then one day they actually change their mind and then go to something else, and then it just shows, doesn't it, like user feedback is so important. And you have to kind of, you can't just all of a sudden take away DMs and then like
Well, apparently if you Twitter you can, because one time they had that blue badge subscription that you could buy, and then you had like a blue tick, and then because everyone like bought it and then were impersonating people, all of a sudden it was like, oh no, you can't have that anymore, and then now we're introducing gold ticks, and then this is what this means.
It's just
and
a bit confusing now, isn't it?
I don't think like a multi-billion-pound company should really be making these changes off the sly, to be honest.
I think the other thing is it's the users that make a platform, but it's also the people who work for that company who are really invested in its mission. And I think that a huge thing in, you know, the transition that Twitter's going through is that, you know, the people who are the core, you know, staff, the core team of Twitter, the people who, you know, are really like the vision of Twitter, they're getting completely disillusioned. A lot of them have left, have been, you know, forced to leave. It's kind of like, what's going to happen when the people who made Twitter what it is as a platform and what people loved it for are no longer there? Like is it going to go the same way?
Not as many people to like moderate or to work on it. In
Well,
general.
there was this feature on Twitter the other day that I was speaking to my partner about, and he was like, oh, it's broken, but like, because they let go of all the engineers that were gonna like fix it, it's just broken. So I don't know if it's fixed now, but it's kind of that element of like potentially, like, I really like Twitter. I mainly use it for more of like a news kind of consuming app.
me
I
too.
don't really like post on it. I know people use it for different reasons. My partner, he actually loves Twitter. Like, he is a developer and he has like such a big like development community, and like he loves that over there. But for me, it's more of like a news thing. And I would hate to think that it would disappear, but potentially if it is like, you know, the likes of Tumblr, and they don't keep up with the times, I mean, that could end up happening as well.
And there was another platform, wasn't there? I don't think it's necessarily new, but it was being spoken about quite a bit in recent months that people were flocking to from Twitter. Mastodon.
Yeah.
I think it's got similarities to Twitter.
Right.
I don't think it's necessarily the same, but again, that was an example of like people were very vocal about moving somewhere else. They were really kind of, you know, frustrated, going to another platform. How well Mastodon's going to do, I don't really know, but it does show that like there's always somewhere else. So
interesting. And another one is Clubhouse. That's what I wanted to bring up, because
throwback.
I feel like Clubhouse is like, it kind of lockdown vibes, maybe.
Definitely
like,
gives me
you know,
lockdown.
COVID, lockdown vibes. I think Clubhouse, I mean, I wouldn't even say it disappeared. It just completely flopped, didn't it, really?
Everyone just deleted it in the end, didn't they?
But I think it was crazy. It came completely out of nowhere. It was all anyone talked about for a really kind of short but intense period. And then it was just like, sick of that now. And it was just like people dropped it like that.
And there was, I think, a few issues with Clubhouse. So obviously Clubhouse, I'm not sure when they actually like launched, but I'm guessing that it was kind of, it gained traction around that time of like, you know, 2021, I think like 2020, 2021. And for me, I would say, again, we're just like, for me, I think it flopped because, but I genuinely think that it didn't work. It was that whole like invitation. So you had to like invite people to come on to Clubhouse. At first, that was great because it really worked with that word of mouth marketing. It was like, oh, I've got a Clubhouse invitation, I'll invite you, that sort of thing.
Felt quite exclusive.
It felt
like,
exclusive, but then it got to the point where it was like, are they not just letting everyone on now? Because they were, but it was also like there was still that barrier. So I think people got a little bit fed up of like waiting for an invitation or finding someone who had an invitation.
And if it's like you're like a speaker who's like directing people towards this platform and your audience are primarily not on it, it's just going to nothing, isn't it? Like it's who you actually speaking to.
Yeah, and I think there was also issues because, again, the way that Clubhouse worked with the rooms and the whatever, I never really kind of talked to it personally, but I know you did, and I know that it's something that you used like a bit. I think that they also faced some issues around, because there was a huge surge in popularity. There then started to be like difficulties in moderation of like what people spoke about, kind of people using like controversial language, talking about controversial topics. It was difficult to moderate, and like sometimes it'd be like you might join a room and you didn't really know what you were going to get, and it was like how do you moderate what people are being exposed to on the platform? And I think a lot of people didn't like that either. I think there would kind of like definitely some issues that they hadn't really fully resolved or hadn't prioritized solving, and it just got that big that they couldn't. But
I think it was really overwhelming with like notifications as well. Like I remember that's part of the reason I deleted it. I didn't necessarily want to turn notifications off, but I just wanted to get rid of it in general because it was notifications that weren't of any use to me. So
but it's interesting because I actually did like a Clubhouse room and there was loads of people on it, and at the time it was like that peak time when like, if you said you were doing a Clubhouse, like it was amazing.
I think I joined that actually.
It was like, oh, little fan over there.
I
know. And it was just like, oh yeah, like get on this, and I was amazed. Like I was like, yeah, this is so cool. And I was kind of scared to talk in it because I was in it with some quite big names within like the industry, and this is kind of like in 2020 when I was still a bit like, I have no idea what I'm doing or who I am or anything like that. But it was really good. And then so it was after that I actually started taking to it a little bit more. So I thought, oh, I'll listen, because I like a podcast. And it was, for me at the time, it was kind of like a podcast. So I was like, you know what, I'll have a go, I'll have a little listen. And I remember there's this vivid memory of like one Saturday or Sunday morning, I was in my house and I was just cooking some breakfast, and I was like, you know what, I'll put a little Clubhouse on, put the Clubhouse on. I can't remember what the name of it was, but it was just something really generic, probably something about marketing or, something like that. And I went on and it was just this guy talking, and he was absolutely going in on sales. Like he's buy my book or like do this thing. And I was just like, I'm just trying to make some breakfast and listen.
That's also dedication on a Saturday or Sunday morning.
And he was like, I know it's like 9:30, but you need to get out there. And it was like the self-help book or something. And as you may be aware by now, hopefully the listeners are, if you're not, I'm not a big self-help book kind of gal. So I was just like,
no, thank you.
Not for me. So I kind of, after that, I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back, as they say, and I kind of deleted it. But I think the actual downfall of Clubhouse was the launch of Spaces by Twitter. So the fact that Twitter launched Spaces, which is Clubhouse on Twitter.
But it was just a feature.
Yeah, because it's just a feature, and because Twitter already had that like a massive user base, they were just basically like, we'll do what Clubhouse is doing. We won't have that barrier to entry of the invites. You've already got an account with us, just do it. And actually Spaces is really popular now.
It's super popular. My partner's always watching some Spaces video or other, and I'm like, who are you talking to? He's like, no, I'm just joining a little thing.
But it's a good concept. So I think it was just the fact that, as you said, Amy, other platforms just get on it and they just say,
and they've got that existing capability, like they can just absorb it as a feature and just be like, we'll just obviously Twitter, they had where they're going now, I don't know, but they're just like, we've got the capacity, we've got the development teams, we'll just add this as a feature and we'll just make you obsolete, and it's kind of
that's what happened.
Definitely. Final one that I wanted to mention was MySpace. So don't know how many of our listeners will be super up on MySpace.
I feel like MySpace listeners.
Shout out.
Yeah, that's my demographic. I'm guessing, Kira, that you were never on MySpace. I don't
know.
Yeah.
Do you know, I I used to remember people on X Factor talking about MySpace. That's my only memory of
Like
it.
MySpace
okay.
famous or something like
Yeah,
that.
something like that.
Interesting. Well, MySpace, yeah. So it was basically the earlier version of what obviously Facebook is now. It was that was my first real introduction to social media. So growing up, I was of the generation that was very much on like MSN Messenger. Like you'd go home from school, you'd like message your friends on MSN Messenger, and that was kind of like, that was really new, of its time. That was something so new. And then MySpace came about, but it was very much just you added your friends. You only had your friends on there. And yeah, it was things like you'd basically rate your friends in order. So you'd have like a top 10 friends, but you would choose what your
That
top
is so
10
savage.
was.
I don't think I
quite
can handle that.
traumatic.
Do you know
Yeah.
what though? I loved it. It was so good because it was like you'd pick like who you were closest with at the time, and like if you fell out with someone, it was
Do you know?
not great. But
I actually had a version of that a bit. It was on BBM, and it was
Right.
like you'd
on
put
Blackberry.
you'd put like in your bio a little emoji and then first name of your favourite friend
Yeah,
at that
yeah,
time.
yeah. Oh, really?
And then your next friend, and then
Yeah.
so it's kind
I
of
would
the
hate
same.
that.
Similar type of thing,
same
but yeah,
order,
but like
really.
MySpace, literally, it was an embedded feature. So you would, I think you could do like 10, or maybe you could change the numbers, but you could literally just like move them around, and it'd be like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you'd check your friends' profiles and like see where you were that day. It was quite savage actually, because you'd be like, oh my god, I've gone from 5 to 9. Like, why fell out with me?
Oh, God.
But it was such a good platform because it was Facebook before Facebook, and obviously. Without any of what we know Facebook to be now, like ads and anything like that. Like, again, I think probably one of the reasons that MySpace didn't take off and didn't continue was probably similar to like Vine. I don't think they really at all like thought about the monetization model of the platform, and about any creators or brands that might want to use the platform that could kind of fund it, bring in money to it in that sense. And then also that, and a combination of the fact that Facebook just was what it was.
Yeah.
Like people would literally just go from MySpace to Facebook, and it really was a step up. It was a step up in the platform and has evolved massively. And I just don't think MySpace was prepared for that. And poor little Tom, who was your first friend, everyone had a friend called Tom, and it was this little picture of Tom. And he was just left on his own on MySpace when everyone left for Facebook.
Yeah. Oh, God.
But yeah,
Well, I
think
wasn't
that's
really of that, to be honest. I did use like MSN, but I think because you are slightly older than me
Yeah.
by a few years.
Okay.
So, so I think because you were a little bit older, like MySpace was probably about, but I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
wasn't old enough to like have it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that was probably the case with me. But I do think obviously MySpace essentially is what Facebook is. Well, what Facebook was, maybe not what Facebook is now.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's just interesting because, there's so many platforms that have succeeded by essentially being other platforms, because even Vine, really, you could say it's very similar to TikTok.
Oh, yeah,
but obviously
definitely.
with TikTok, that was originally Musical.ly, so that Musical.ly wasn't really a platform that disappeared, hence why we haven't really talked about it, but it became TikTok, didn't it? So it's interesting. But the concept of like Vine, that short form video content, even though it was popular in 2013 and we might think, oh, it didn't work, maybe it just didn't work because of that monetization rather than the content
Yeah,
didn't
it wasn't
work.
that people didn't want that short form content. It just didn't work as that platform, which
Yeah.
has obviously, come to be proven now with TikTok, with Instagram Reels, with YouTube Shorts, with all these different types of short form content. Vine was ahead of its time in that sense.
Yeah.
But just
But
couldn't
equally,
last.
TikTok have obviously got the longer form option as well. So it's like,
Yeah.
it's getting, the balance. And I think people always do like to have the option, don't they, on social platforms.
And I
So
think
it's just
just
providing that.
Yeah, and with TikTok, like we've spoken about the platforms that do make changes and don't make changes and make too many and stuff like that. TikTok's always evolving. The platform's never the same from one week to the next. There's always something to keep up with. There's always some new feature, some new way of using it, some new way of kind of like, bringing in audiences, engaging as a brand or as an individual. And so I think that that's such a huge part of being a successful platform, is that adaptability and listening to what your users want. And I think most of the ones we've mentioned have kind of not focused on features the users want, haven't effectively monetized the platform properly, which has led creators and stuff to just go elsewhere, and then they've just been kind of overshadowed by other big platforms who've got that structure and that vision in place.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see the future of TikTok in particular though,
Yeah.
because I know they're good at monetizing the platform for themselves. So like TikTok ads are really great for brands and that sort of thing. But actually like creator money, like it's quite bad for that, isn't it? Like, you know, you can get a video with a few million views and you'll make like 70p off it.
Yeah.
Whereas YouTube, you see a lot of TikTokers now already going to YouTube because they have a much better monetization model. So it'll be interesting, I think,
See how it evolves.
to see how it evolves and how it plays out.
I think a good thing about TikTok as well, which the platforms we've mentioned haven't necessarily done, is I think TikTok are always quite transparent with their audience. They're transparent about the algorithm, the changes they make in the ads that they're bringing out. And I don't know if you guys read it, but the What's Next Trend Report 2023, I think that was really good and that was transparent. And yeah, I think people do appreciate that transparency. People can see through influencers now, can't they? People can see through the platform. So I think the transparency is needed.
Yeah. Well, let us know if you used any of those platforms, if you were upset when they disappeared, or if there are any others that you equally were sad that disappeared that we've not covered today, because we'd love to hear from you.
Thanks so much for joining us for another episode of the Girls in Marketing podcast. We love hearing from you, so if you enjoyed this episode, leave us a review to let us know your thoughts and make sure you hit the subscribe or follow button to be the first to hear when our new episodes released. Don't forget, if you want to get involved with Girls in Marketing, check out our membership to join our incredible community of marketers. Think marketing resources, courses, webinars, and more. Find out more on our website or drop us a message on any of our social channels @Girls in Marketing.